3 hours. That's how long I'd been sitting in that cold plastic chair, staring at my phone's black screen. The rain outside matched my mood, perfectly dark, heavy, suffocating. My fiancé Dante had stood me up, again, for the third time, on the most important day of a woman's life. I looked down at my elegant white wedding dress, the one I'd spent a week choosing, and touched the ultrasound in my purse. I was going to surprise him with news that would change our lives. We weren't just signing marriage papers today. We were welcoming a new life into this world. But instead of "I do," all I got was a text. Something came up. Important client meeting. Baby, you're always so understanding. Nickdom. Those words felt like a knife to my pride. The office was about to close. Miss Higgins, the clerk, looked at me with pity. Honey, office hours are over. I doubt he's coming. Why don't you go home and come back another day? I was about to leave, to scrape together what little dignity I had left, when I saw him. Through the glass partition, in the waiting area for divorce filings, sat a man in a black shirt. He was massaging his temples like he was carrying the weight of the world, and when he looked up and met my eyes, I saw something I recognized, instantly, the look of someone who'd been completely and utterly abandoned. That's when Miss Higgins made a joke that would change everything. What a coincidence, she said, with a knowing smile. That handsome young man over there has been waiting half the day to... I heard he got stood up for the third time as well. Today you are both standing there, and why don't you two team up so such a beautiful day isn't wasted? We stared at each other for exactly 10 seconds. No mockery in his eyes, no pity, only desperation, indignation, and the recklessness of someone pushed to their absolute limit. Then he stood up. He walked toward me, bringing with him the cold air of rain and a faint scent of tobacco. He looked me straight in the eyes. My name is Malik. I'm 30 years old. I have my own company, no bad habits, and no debts. My parents are still alive, and I have a younger sister. If you are serious and need a marriage right now, let's get married. I should have walked away. I should have said no. But something inside me awakened the rebellious demon that was tired of being invisible, tired of being taken for granted. Why should I wait for someone who didn't value me? Why should I leave humiliated? I looked at this stranger and nodded. Agreed. My name is Kesha. I'm 29. I have all the papers right here. Miss Higgins' jaw dropped. 15 minutes later, with the firm sound of a stamp on paper, Malik and I officially became husband and wife. I held the marriage certificate, which still smelled of fresh ink, and looked at the man who had just become my husband. A feeling of strangeness and unreality washed over me. That was my wedding night. No candles, no flowers, no promises of eternal love, just the hum of ventilation and the discomfort of two strangers connected by a fragile piece of paper. Malik's apartment was like a real estate model unit, perfectly clean, perfectly cold. There were no family photos, no decorations, just cool black and white tones and a silence that enveloped everything. Malik placed a glass of lukewarm water on the table and sat across from me, keeping a safe distance. His respect, though distant, relieved me and simultaneously made me a little sad. Then he told me the truth. His voice was deep and laden with fatigue he couldn't hide. My mother has terminal lung cancer. The doctors say she doesn't have much time left. Maybe just a few months. Her only wish is to see me settled down before she closes her eyes for good. My ex-girlfriend left me when she found out about my mother's illness. She didn't want to be burdened with a family dealing with cancer. I looked at this man who had just shared his deepest pain with me, and I realized I couldn't deceive him. My conscience wouldn't allow it. I took a deep breath, placed my hand on my stomach, and said with a shaky voice, Malik, I have to tell you something. I'm pregnant. It's my ex-boyfriend's. The silence became absolute. I lowered my head, expecting rage, insults, for him to throw me out. But there was no yelling, only the rhythmic sound of his fingers drumming on the wooden table. Then Malik spoke. His voice held only infinite bitterness. My ex? She's probably pregnant by her boss right now, too. We really are two fools who were thrown away like expired. Goodsey looked at me and proposed an arrangement I couldn't believe. You need a name for this child? I need a wife so my mother can die in peace. Let's maintain this relationship. I won't give you any trouble, and I won't let anyone harm you or your child. In return, You helped me play the role of the perfect daughter-in-law for my mother. The next morning, we went to the hospital to meet Malik's mother. I was terrified. I would be deceiving a person on the brink of death. But when Malik's mother saw us walk in hand, her tired eyes lit up with a strange vitality, like a lamp about to go out that had just been refilled with oil. She took off a sapphire bracelet she wore on her wrist and a sparkling piece of jewelry. She insisted on putting it on me. This belonged to my mother. I kept it my whole life for my daughter-in-law. Now I hand it over to you. Take care of each other and love each other very much. As I held that heavy bracelet and saw her satisfied smile, tears burst uncontrollably from me. I cried, not only from emotion, but also from shame at the sincerity of this mother. I was deceiving her. When we left the hospital, my phone rang. It was Dante. His name on the display made my heart cramp with pain and anger. I took the call. His voice was still mocking and carefree, as if standing up his fiancé at the clerk's office was something as trivial as forgetting to buy a loaf of bread. Where are you? I'll pick you up and take you to dinner to make it up to you. I was so drunk yesterday, I fell asleep. The accumulated rage erupted. I answered coldly, That's not necessary. I'm busy. I'm enjoying my honeymoon. There was a second of silence, then laughter. Pabi, are you mad again? What honeymoon? Don't joke around. I said nothing more. I took a photo of the marriage certificate and texted it to him. Then I hung up. Less than a minute later, my phone vibrated. The message was full of resentment. You dare cheat on me? You're pregnant with my child. You think you can get away? Meet me right now. If not, I'm coming to your company and making a scene. Malik glanced at the display. He didn't ask much. He just started the car. His voice was cold but imposing. Get in. I'll drive you to the meeting. You are legally my wife now, and I won't let anyone intimidate you. We met Dante at a coffee shop below my office building. At this time, it was almost empty. When Dante saw Malik and me walk in together, his gaze flashed with surprise, but quickly shifted to contempt. He leaned back in his chair with a superior air. Sit down. Is this the fake husband you picked up off the street? He doesn't look bad, but I bet his pockets are empty. Dante smiled scornfully and leaned forward. Kessia, don't be childish. I know you're angry about yesterday, but I have my reasons. I'm being promoted to deputy director, but the condition is that I marry the general director's daughter. I froze. The reason he had left me wasn't that he was busy. He was busy climbing the corporate ladder. Marrying her is just a formality. He continued, You know I want you. Get an abortion. Be my secret mistress, and I'll support you. I'll buy you a house, a car. You won't lack anything. Every word was like a poisoned needle. I couldn't control myself anymore. I took the glass of water in front of me and threw it in his face. You miserable wretch, shut your mouth, I screamed, not caring about curious stares. Dante jumped up, furious. He raised his hand to hit me. You crazy baby! How dare you! But before his hand reached me, another hand strong as steel caught it in the air. Malik had stood up without violence, squeezing Dante's wrist and pushing him back into the chair. This is America. Putting your hands on a woman is a crime. Hitting my wife is even worse. Malik straightened his shirt collar and looked at Dante. But the pity one offers a moral failure. I don't need to know who you are, but I know you're harassing my wife. The cameras in this place are recording, and I just recorded your entire interesting conversation about your wedding plans with your boss's daughter. Would you like me to send the file to your general director so he can listen to it? Dante's face went from red to corpse pale. His arrogance vanished, replaced by fear. After the stormy meeting with Dante, I tried to compose myself to return to the office. The collaboration project with the Solaris Group was the fruit of 3 months of my work. My chance to prove my worth and be promoted to creative director. But when I entered the office, I noticed a strange mood. The murmuring stopped as I passed. My colleagues' glances were no longer admiring, but full of mistrust and suspicion. Tasha, my direct competitor for the position, came to my desk with her usual sugary smile. Kesha, I heard you got married in a rush. You must be exhausted. Drink this to get your strength back. The meeting this afternoon is important. Don't let your personal matters affect you. The meeting began at 2 p.m. in the presence of the general director and representatives from the Solaris Group. I stepped confidently onto the podium and opened my presentation. But as soon as the first slide appeared, a murmur went through the room. The general director slammed his hand on the table. "Miss Vance, how do you explain this?" He threw another dossier onto the table. It was the proposal from Creative Star, our biggest competitor, and the scariest part was that its content was identical to mine, from the basic concept and slogan down to the final market analysis. How is this possible? I stammered while cold sweat ran down my back. Then Tasha took the floor with a fake tone of regret. "Director, I heard Kesha's in financial trouble and got married in a hurry. Maybe? Well, I don't dare speculate. But Creative Star announced this idea this morning. The accusation of selling out the company hung over my head like a death sentence for my career. The IT department was called immediately. The result left me speechless. My computer history showed that at noon, exactly when I was at lunch, an email with the data had been sent from my device to the creative director of Creative Star. I didn't do that at that time. I wasn't here," I shouted desperately, but the evidence on the screen made any defense useless. The general director looked at me with disappointment and decided coldly, "While the matter is being investigated, Ms. Vance is suspended from duty. Hand the project over to Ms. Tasha and prepare to testify before the disciplinary committee." I was petrified. I felt the world collapsing at my feet. I packed my things into a box. Tasha walked past me and whispered triumphantly in my ear, "To compete with me, you still lack a lot, honey. Go home and take care of your fake husband." I left the building with the box in my arms. The evening sun was setting and people hurried indifferently past a failure who had just been thrown out of the game. I didn't cry. It seemed my tears had dried up. I arrived home as the city lights were turning on. Malik was sitting at his desk. The light of the monitor illuminated his serious face. When he saw me with the box, he didn't seem surprised. He stood up silently and took the heavy box from my hands. I collapsed onto the sofa, exhausted, ready for his questions and accusations, but instead, he asked only one thing: "Did you do it?" I raised my gaze and shook my head firmly. "No, I swear to you, I didn't do it. I may be broke, but I would never sell my professional ethics." Malik nodded, his face relaxing to show absolute trust. "That's enough. I believe you." Just 3 words, but they were more powerful than 1,000 empty consolations. "Give me a laptop," Malik said, his voice becoming professional and sharp. "If you can, try to remember if you logged into your work account on any other device." I remembered he was an IT specialist with his own software company. I quickly gave him my laptop. His fingers flew over the keyboard as lines of code scrolled across the screen. "Your company's security is pretty laughable," he commented. "They install the keylogger on your computer, probably via a USB drive or a link you accidentally clicked. This software records everything you type, including passwords." He typed more, then pointed to an IP address on the screen. "Here is the trace of the unauthorized access. The email wasn't sent from your office computer, but remotely via a proxy server to mask the true IP. But whoever did this was an amateur. They forgot to delete the system logs on your laptop when the data synced. About 30 minutes later," he sighed with relief and turned the screen toward me. "I found the original IP address. It comes from a cafe with Wi-Fi right across from your office at lunchtime. Right. And most importantly, I recovered a fragment of a chat the spyware accidentally captured. On the screen was a blurry but readable screenshot of a chat. The sender was Tasha MKT, and the recipient was Dante Dija. The message was short but incriminating. "I already sent the material to Creative Star. Remember to transfer the rest to me. That little brat Cassia is finished." I stared at the screen in horror. It turned out that not only Tasha but also Dante was behind this conspiracy. He didn't just want me to lose my child. He wanted to drag me through the mud, to take my career and my honor. Malik took my ice-cold hand. "We have the evidence. Tomorrow I'm going to the company with you." The warmth of his hand comforted me. I looked at him and felt infinite gratitude. In the middle of the storm of my life, I had found a safe harbor. Even if it was an unexpected marriage, it was strangely sincere. The next morning, I had the evidence Malik had collected, but I sat in silence, staring at the printed messages with mixed feelings. Tasha and Dante's betrayal disgusted me. But when I thought of Tasha's situation, I hesitated. Tasha was a single mother. Her daughter had a congenital heart defect and was waiting for surgery. Everyone in the company knew that. I understood that desperation can drive people to do terrible things for money. But that didn't mean I would tolerate evil. I met Tasha in a quiet tea room. When she saw me, she flinched but tried to remain calm. I didn't beat around the bush. I put the documents on the table. Tasha, I think you should see this. Her face went pale as she read the chat with Dante. Kesha, I'm sorry. I had no other choice. My daughter needs the money for the surgery urgently, and Dante promised me $100,000 if I did it. I looked at her with a mixture of pity and anger. $100,000. That was the price for a person's conscience in Korea. I took a deep breath. I know your situation, but did you think about what would happen to me? How it would affect my life and my child? Because I'm pregnant, too. To save your daughter, you wanted to destroy my child and me. Tasha looked at me with eyes full of remorse and fear. She grabbed my hand. I made a mistake. I'm really sorry. Do what you want, but please don't tell the police. If I go to jail, my daughter will be left all alone. Her plea as a mother softened my heart. I had been there. I knew desperation. I'll give you two options, I said calmly. First, I send all this to management and the police. Second, you go in yourself. You confess everything and testify to clear my name. If you choose the second, I will ask for mitigating circumstances to be considered so you aren't criminally prosecuted. Tasha looked at me in astonishment. Perhaps she hadn't expected me to give her a way out. She nodded repeatedly through tears. I'll do it. I'll confess everything. Thank you, Kessia. Thank you for not backing me into a corner. On Monday morning, in the tense conference room of the executive suite, Tasha confessed everything. The general director turned to me with a serious and disappointed face. Ms. Van, the company owes you an apology. Your suspension is lifted. You can return to your post and continue with the project. As for Dante, the position of deputy director he dreamed of vanished into thin air. His reputation in the industry crashed. His career built on trickery faced collapse. But that night, after we thought everything was solved, violent blows echoed against our door. It was Dante screaming like a madman, "Come on, what you dare ruin my life." Malik signaled me to stay quiet. He went to the door, looked through the peephole, and took out his phone. Calmly, he began recording a video. The police came. They took Dante away. But that wasn't the end of our troubles. That was only the beginning. Barely 3 days after the incident, the true storm broke over us. That early morning, as Malik lit incense at his mother's altar, there was persistent knocking at the door. 2 police officers and a man in plain clothes stood at the door. Their faces were serious and cold. "Is Mr. Malik Thorne here? We have an arrest warrant and an order for pretrial detention for fraud and tax evasion." The officer showed me a paper with a red stamp. I felt the world sway. Bob Malik came out surprised but quickly found his calm again. He offered no resistance. He only turned to me with a look full of regret and worry. "Keisha, stay home and stay calm. Don't worry about me. I'll clear everything up." Locked the door tight. The police car took Malik away, leaving me rooted to the spot. But that wasn't all. At noon, a group of tattooed and menacing-looking men hammered on the door, threw red paint on the metal door, and plastered the hallway with notices full of insults. "Where is Malik? Pay what you owe. You can't hide." These shouts echoed through the whole building. I huddled, terrified in the room, hugging my belly. Then the terrible truth became clear. Malik was dragging huge debts with him. I imagined it was the money he had borrowed to buy expensive, imported drugs not covered by insurance to prolong his mother's life. He had sacrificed everything in his future and his safety to be a good son. My phone rang. It was Brianna, my best friend. "Kesha, where are you? I heard Mowick's company assets were seized. The creditors are looking for him everywhere. Pack your things and come to my place. It's dangerous to stay there." That night, under the cover of darkness, Brianna and I snuck into Malik's sealed office. Thanks to a favor, we managed to get in through the back door for 15 minutes. The place was deserted. Without turning on the lights, we used flashlights. I went straight to Malik's desk, to the place where he had once drunkenly told me a secret. Behind a picture was a small wall safe. Trembling, I entered his mother's birthday. The door opened. Inside was no money. Only a stack of papers in a brown leather diary. I opened it. It was Malik's diary. In it, he described his struggle to save his mother. The doctor says a new treatment could extend her life by 6 months, but it costs a fortune. I sold the car, mortgaged the house, but it's not enough. Mr. Ferdinand offered me a loan from his finance company, Progress. I know it's a trap, a predatory loan, but I have no other choice. Mama is suffering with every hour that passes. Tears blurred the words. I saw Malik alone in the night, wrestling between his honor and his mother's life, and the contracts in the safe confirmed the trap. Business loans converted into personal debts with usurious interest rates. Malik wasn't a fraudster. He was the victim of a loan shark network run by the same people who now wanted to sink him, Dante and his uncle. Ferdinand had exploited his filial love to drive him into debt, put him in prison, and take over his company for a bargain price. Look at this. Brianna showed me other papers. They were the receipts of all transfers from the loan to the hospital to pay the bills and medications. Not a single dollar had flowed into his personal account. I pressed the diary and the papers to my chest. My husband, whom I once considered a stranger, had endured a storm all alone without telling me anything. Now it was my turn to fight for him. I returned home at 2 a.m., but I wasn't tired. Outrage and determination kept me awake. The next morning, I gathered all the wedding jewelry my mother had given me for my failed marriage to Dante, along with my meager savings for the baby, and sold everything. I felt not the slightest regret. I went to my boss's office and asked for a salary advance of 1 year. My boss looked at me with concern. Kesha, have you thought this through? Your husband is accused of a serious financial crime. It's very likely he'll go to prison. Putting money into that is a waste, and you have to think about the baby. I answered him with my head held high. Boss, he isn't a fraudster. He's just a good son who was pushed into a corner. If I leave him now, I will regret it my whole life. With the money, I hired the best criminal defense attorney in the city. On the day of the visit, I got up early and cooked beef stew, Malik's favorite dish. When I saw him through the glass partition, I hardly recognized him. He was gaunt with a shaved head and deep circles under his eyes, but when he saw me, the same worry as always flashed in his eyes. Kessia, what are you doing here? I told you not to worry about me. Go get a divorce. I'll sign the papers. You're young. You have a future. Don't let the record of a criminal affect you and the child. Looked at him, smiling through tears. I placed my hand on the glass, stroking my belly. Listen to me closely, Malik. I sold everything. I asked for an advance and hired the best lawyer. I don't need a clean slate. I need a father for my child, a husband who sacrifices himself for his family. Don't you dare give up. You have to get out of here to repay this debt to me, a debt of gratitude that will last a lifetime. Malik fell silent, his shoulders shaking. He lowered his head to hide his tears. The trial took place on a gray, lean day. In the solemn courtroom, I sat in the first row, hands clasped. Brianna squeezed my hand to calm me. Malik, standing before the podium, looked fragile but held his back straight. The prosecutor read the charges: fraud, embezzlement of large sums of money. Every word was a nail in my husband's coffin. When it was the defense's turn, our lawyer, an elderly, composed man, stood up. He presented the court with Malik's diary, the hospital bills, and above all, the fraudulent loan contracts from Mr. Ferdinand's finance company. Your Honor, the defendant, Malik, had no intention of appropriating any assets for his personal benefit. He acted out of necessity to save his mother's life, and more importantly, he was the victim of a loan shark network disguised as an investment. The room murmured as the lawyer revealed the relationship between Dante and Mr. Ferdinand, along with messages proving they had coerced Malik into signing blank contracts. The presiding judge's gaze softened as he considered these mitigating circumstances. The defendant, Malik Thorne, is guilty of breach of trust. However, considering the numerous mitigating circumstances that he was the victim of a trap and did not act out of personal greed, the court sentences him to 2 years of probation. The defendant is released immediately in this courtroom. Gavel struck the wood, ending our nightmare. I burst into tears and hugged Brianna. They were tears of relief and happiness. Malik turned around and looked at me with red eyes. Even if his record would remain stained, he was at least free. We left the courthouse and the cloudy sky began to clear. A few shy sunbeams illuminated the path ahead of us. I knew it would be full of obstacles, but we would walk it together.